Hi, I'm Eunie and I'm one of the counselors from Counseling Services. I wanted to talk today a little bit about the winter blues. We live in Minnesota and we experience the four seasons here. And most of us really enjoy that and can find something that we like and is unique about each of the seasons. And yes, even winter. And yet, for some of us, winter becomes a harder season and we may struggle a little bit with mood, energy, focus, motivation. And some people are impacted pretty significantly by the changes that winter brings. And they can experience a type of depression called seasonal affective disorder, while as most people experience these same things, these same changes, but in a to a much less degree. So what are some of those changes? Changes in energy. If I have the winter blues, I might have want to sleep a little bit more and maybe sleep an extra half hour or so a day. But if I actually have seasonal affective disorder, I might want to sleep almost all the time and sleep up to 2 more hours a day. It's just really hard to feel energized and focused during the day. I might experience a change in appetite. And for people who experience different kinds of depression, that can be either an increase or a decrease in appetite. But for someone who is struggling with a seasonal depression, that would be more of an increase in appetite and a lot of cravings for simple carbs. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. There's usually a dip in mood, just not quite feeling myself, maybe a little sad. Maybe it's more anxiety or a flatness or increase in irritability. I may not be interested in doing some of those things that I usually enjoy, and I may lack a lot of motivation. It just takes more to get me to get started on things. And when I sit down to work, it may be harder for me to concentrate. And even though I may be a social person, I might want to withdraw a little bit more during the winter. So a matter of degrees if it's winter blues or sad, but these are some of the things that we typically see. Triggers for this is really about light, and that's why it follows a seasonal pattern. Is there's a change in the amount of light we receive. If someone is experiencing the depressive end of this continuum, there may be a genetic predisposition to maybe someone in the family experiences some type of depression, and sometimes a high degree of negative stress can trigger this as well. So if it's about light, how does that light impact? Well, light impacts our hormones or the chemicals in our bodies. And there are two main ones that correlate with winter blues. And one is serotonin. And serotonin is that chemical that keeps our mood up and is energizing for us. And in the winter, we just produce less serotonin because there's less sunlight. Summer, late spring, early fall are the times when our serotonin levels are the highest. And melatonin is, we produce more melatonin when it's dark out. And melatonin is what makes us sleepy. So let's take a look at what are some of the things we can do about that. What can help us during the months of winter when it's cold and dark? The main thing, or the first thing that I like to talk to is about keeping the connections alive. We are social creatures and relationships are really important. And this year it's even more challenging than ever because of COVID. So we have to be creative and we have to find ways. And I think even if we connect with just one person a day, that it can be really helpful so that we are known and we are interacting with someone and we have some level of support in our life. Light, of course, is another thing to really look at. We've got some pictures here. The first picture reminds us simply to look around and open our shades. Can you move your desk into a sunny part of the room, or can you sit in a different part of your house and get some more, soak some sun up at certain times of the day? My cat loves to do that, find the sunshine and hunker down there. This next light is, I guess I'm on top of it here, is called a full spectrum light. And that is just a really bright light, and they're not expensive. It's not a therapeutic light, but it can just kind of brighten the energy and spirit in the room a little bit when you have a brighter light bulb. The bottom two lights are more therapeutic in nature and can be really helpful um, to address mood. The first one, the small round one, is called a dawn simulator. And this is an alarm clock. It starts out dark, of course, and then slowly builds to be a bright light in the room. And I have had lots of students talk about how it's helpful to get them up in the morning. And then the last picture here is a light box. And for people who do have seasonal affective disorder, this is the number one recommendation for um, for working with mood. And you sit in front of it for 20 to 30 minutes at the start of the day. And of course you don't look right into it, but you are facing it. And this is a special kind of light bulb and a special kind of box that you can get through many different places online. And sometimes a doctor will even help work with you to help get it paid through insurance. At the end of this slideshow are a couple resources to help you find some of these light boxes if you think that would be helpful. Wrong way. Natural light, of course, is better. So it's always recommended that you bundle up and get outside, even if it's just for 20 minutes a day. And earlier today, I went for a walk and I noticed one side of the street was in the shade and one side of the street was sunny. And so, when you go out, look for the light, walk in it, try to soak it up a little bit each day. Exercise is huge in winter blues or seasonal affective disorder. When we exercise, we are releasing chemicals that elevate our mood and that give us more energy and that help us sleep. Trying to manage the winter blues without some form of exercise is really hard. Likewise with sleep. Sleep is the other piece that is equal to exercise. I kind of think about trying to push a rock up a hill. If I'm trying to manage my mood without getting enough sleep and without some sort of exercise. Amazing things happen when we sleep. It is discharging certain hormones, and it is helping us restore other hormones. We are better able to manage our emotions. We are better able to concentrate and to motivate ourselves during the day when we get enough sleep. And yet when it's dark, we might want to sleep an awful lot. So just as too little sleep can be harmful, too much sleep can be as well. And that's the challenge, to shoot for somewhere, not less than 7 hours of sleep, not more than 9 hours of sleep. And what we know about managing mood is that trying to get up around the same time of day, every day of the week, is definitely recommended. Diet also has a role to play with the winter blues. As I mentioned earlier, this time of the year, have you noticed you kind of start craving some simple carbs, pizza or pasta or maybe donuts? And the reason for that is that simple carbs mimic the feeling of an increase in serotonin. So we feel better, but it's temporary. And then our blood sugar comes crashing down. So in an attempt to work with our bodies, it's really helpful to try to get our blood sugar to be more like this, as opposed to simple carbs, crash, wait a long time before you eat again. So while there aren't specific dietary guidelines, just think healthy diet, think frequent snacks, get a little protein multiple times throughout the day, and maybe think twice before you grab that second Plato's donut. Stress, because stress is a major component, I think it's important to take a look at how to productively manage stress during the winter. Some people have just a lot of plates going all spinning all at the same time. Maybe winter is a time to slow down a little bit, simplify if you can, stop a plate or two from spinning. And it's also important for us to find some sort of activity that we really like that gives us joy. Is that reading a book or listening to music or playing hockey, or the list is long? And to find one thing at least that you can have fun with and that is a break from everything else. Sometimes stress comes from relationships. So winter can also be a really good time to take a look at some of those relationships and think, is this relationship building me up? Or maybe it is tearing me down. Is this a relationship where I can be myself? Does this relationship bring out the best in me? And do I bring out the best in my friend? And then another big source of stress is academic stress. So to have some sort of routine or schedule, be organized on paper, know when things are due, and find a way to to get started on your work, even if you don't feel like it. Maybe that motivation piece just isn't there so much. And we can still get work done even when we're not really motivated. And sometimes that takes talking to some people about getting ideas about that. Self-talk is important during the winter months when we might be feeling a little bit low. When we feel low, it's easy to fall into that, "Oh, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not this enough, I'm not that enough." And to really watch how we're talking to ourselves and encouraging ourselves, and maybe do the best friend test. Am I talking to myself in a way I'd talk to a friend? And if the answer is no, start paying a little bit closer attention to that internal voice and see if there's a way to be a little bit kinder, a little bit more compassionate, a little bit more realistic with ourselves. I think during the winter of all times, it's helpful to have something to look forward to. It can be a little thing once a week, a bigger thing once a month. These days, especially with COVID, the days can feel pretty much the same day after day. So to have something to spice things up a little bit is really helpful. This year, I've been hearing from a lot of students that they have plants in their rooms, and they talk with pride about, hey, I'm taking care of something, and I have to pay attention to it. So consider that. And the last thing I want to talk about is gratitude. When we stop and pay attention to the positive things in our lives, the things we're grateful for, we develop a more positive attitude overall. And I often challenge other people as well as myself to try to practice gratitude. And what does that mean? For me, it looks like at the end of each day, finding 3 things. It can be more, but a minimum of 3 things that happened that day, that I experienced that day, that I thought about that day, that I'm grateful for, and to write them down. And to practice this for a month, just to see the impact that it has. And then to laugh out loud. Find some way, whether it's a conversation with a friend who always cracks you up, or a show that you really like, or something where you can laugh out loud every day. Really makes a difference. And finally, there is help on campus from professionals. Sometimes doing these things, while it might be helpful, doesn't feel like quite enough, and it can be good to talk to an objective outside person as well. So give us a call, email us. And then finally, if you're interested in some more information about light boxes or the Dawn simulator, here are some links that can give you some more information. Good to talk to you today. Good luck. Get out there and enjoy what you can of winter and try some of these other tips with the winter blues.